Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation, and today I've got a special guest, Joe B from the Contrarians. How's it going,
Hello,
Joe?
man. Doing well. I'm getting ready for game six in about an hour here in
Fantastic.
Tampa. So yeah,
Wow,
I'm
great,
ready to
good
talk
stuff.
some Jack White. I've been biting at the bit for this.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about Jack White, and we're going to be talking about this new little album. Well, it's not new, it's been out for a little bit, and it is Fear of the Dawn. So Jack White is actually putting out two albums this year, Fear of the Dawn, and another one, Joe's coming out in July called Entering Heaven Alive. So this guy is prolific. And yeah, we'll talk about the tracks on this album and maybe your recent Jack White concert experience. So take it away, Joe. Let us know what you think.
So before we dive into the album, I just want to let you know that can did you ever think you would see an artist that would write an anthem that is bigger than Queen's? And that's Seven Nation Army. I mean, you hear it at all the sporting events everywhere. And the thing is, now when we segue into the live experience, he had a DJ playing music before he went on stage, and they played the Live Killers version of "We Will Rock You" before he went on stage. But Seven Nation Army is just a massive anthem that you hear everywhere, and it's surpassed Queen's "We Will Rock You."
Absolutely. And
So
if you look on the YouTube hits, it's just up there in the high, you know, numerical value of how many people have actually hit that song. It's easily their most popular song.
yeah, yeah, so you take it away. Tell me. I mean, I
Oh,
can go off in all different tangents with because I think he's a musical genius and he's a fantastic
yeah.
guitar player.
Well,
And one thing before we go into the album, he was recently on a talk show here in the United States, and one of the most important things I think he said during the interview was, "Do not let anyone tell you how to play guitar." And this is a throwback. I believe his greatness comes from a throwback to those 70s classic rock bands. And he fits in with that Detroit garage hard rock, MC5, Iggy and the Stooges, even Ted Nugent. He comes from that Detroit style, but he learned to play guitar himself. He didn't try to copy anyone else.
yep, yep. All right. Well, I'll just sort of start and say my thoughts with Jack White, and just feel free to chime in as we just go along. So I think he's one of the last genuine rock stars. He's charismatic. He's got the X factor, Joe. So he's not just somebody that performs and does the music, but he's got charisma to burn. He's a bit of a rock professor. In his albums, they're just so creative. He's got no filter. He'll just put it all out there. Um, you know, his lineage is a lot with the blues, with garage rock, but he also has a lot of homage to the great sort of rock acts of the 70s. So, your Page, um, Jeff Beck. I think he has a good sense of history of rock, and he dilutes it into his music and makes it his own. But
Definitely. I mean,
absolutely no creative filter whatsoever. And this album, Fear of the Dawn, is just it's brilliant. I've had it on the turntable for the last month or so, and it's just everything that we love about Jack White. And I think that in the White Stripes, there was a certain sound that was confined to the garage rock and the blues, and he pushed it as far as he could go. But now that he's solo, and this is his fourth album, he's just let loose and just
I
putting it all
agree.
out there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So with White Stripes and his hard rocking songs were hard rocking. Like you take a song like Icky Thump, that's just a kick ass tune. But no, I agree. And him going solo, he has elevated his musicianship and the musicianship around him that has created amazing music.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in this album, it starts off with I'll just some of my favorite tracks off it. Taking Me Back is the first song off the album, and that's just like a heavy pile driver riff. Angry as Spit lyrics. It's about divorce and reconciliation, and there's a lot of personal stuff on this album. I think he's onto his third marriage, and
Yeah.
he puts a lot of his personal experiences into his lyrics. So he's not a shallow lyricist in any shape or form. So
Yeah.
what's going in his life, he puts it into his music. But you can just see on this first album, on this first song, definitely it shows everything we like about Jack. And by the way, Jack does all the instruments,
Yeah.
except I think Daru Jones is the drummer. And that's another thing. He's the second star of this. I don't know if he actually played in the band when you saw him live, but Daru Jones is a second star on this album. The
He's
really
incredible.
metronomic drumming, and it just keeps the time and just, you know, gets it in the groove all the way through.
Yeah.
Fear of the Dawn's a great track. That's number 2, The White Raven, and then Heidi Ho, which he does a lot of sampling on this album. So, you know, more than any other Jack White or White Stripes album, which was very sort of contained and no sampling, no keyboards or synthesizers, this one has a lot of sampling, and it features Q-Tip and, you know, heavy drum beat, really crushing sort of guitar riffage. And then there's another one called Essophobia. I don't know if I got the pronunciation right. He has a
Right.
bit of dub and reggae. So he
Yeah.
really, it's a real sort of broad template on this album. It's not just in the confines of rock, but he's throwing to the wind and trying different types of genres here. So that's got a, you know, bit of atmosphere, great guitar work. It's like finger picking. It reminded me a little bit of the Allman Brothers at their finest with the
Exactly.
guitar work.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. The finger picking is amazing, and then he goes into that middle riff with the chords. Just, yeah, great stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah.
And you know what, you brought up the sampling, and it's another progression. You know, it's just a great listen. You just want to listen to the next song, and then the next song, and the next song. And there's not too many albums that have come out recently like that, and it's just great stuff. It really is. Yeah,
Now
and his guitar work is just, it's phenomenal. And then when you see him live, you realize he's a lot more talented than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
He's a genius. He's an absolute genius.
Yeah, with that finger picking, and even on that track, I know he does like a bit of layering. So I think he does a bit of an overdub, and it feels like an overdub on an overdub. And that finger picking sequence in that track is just so effective. But you can actually visualize him just going, you know, going for it.
Right.
It's great. Into the Twilight. Well, I never thought I'd buy an album and it'd have a sample from the Manhattan Transfer. Remember them in the Twilight Zone?
Right. Yeah.
Now I've got a Manhattan Transfer track in my album. But
exactly.
that works really well. It works really well. And, you know, his guitar is squeaking and squalling. He gets to make it all sounds. Was that like that in the concert? Or was he a lot of, you know, just doing lots of effects and squeaks and squalls?
When you see him live, and there's you know, you can't. So first of all, when you saw him live, your phone, you lock your phone into a case. So there's no cell phone, whatever. And if you have to make a call, you have to go to a specific area and they'll take your phone out of your case. But if you want to see a good live concert before this album, look up Lollapalooza 2018, I believe, from Chicago. And that was on the Blunderbuss, right? No, the Boarding House Ranch, where he plays Corporation. But anyway, he has guitars lined up all over on the stage. He's got his backing band, and he is nonstop. He does not talk to the crowd, really. He said he played a Rankin Tours song, hopped on the piano and dedicated to Johnny Depp. But he picks up guitar, picks up the bass on one song, plays piano one song, and he's nonstop jamming. Yeah.
So no stage patter.
No stage patter. And then like when he played when he played Heidi Ho. When he played Heidi Ho, he had it looked like a statue of himself, and they had the rap coming out of that, which was very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
He is nonstop energy,
Yeah.
just walking back all over the place. Yeah.
And what was the age of the audience? Was it was it a mix? Was there
It
sort of
was
a
definitely a
cross
mix.
generational?
It was definitely a mix, definitely cross generational. I was probably on the older end of the spectrum there. I'm 58, but my son went, and he's, you know, he has always liked White Stripes and especially Jack White solo. So there were a lot of people in his age, and he's in his mid 20s. You know, it was great. It's always great to see young people into rock and roll, and this is great straight on rock and roll. And
Yes,
yeah,
yes, 100%.
yeah,
So no, it was a good, healthy cross generational because he came out. I mean, White Stripes came out in the garage rock boom in the early 2000s with the
correct.
Strokes and the Hives and the Vines, and some of those bands they just they burned brightly for one or two albums and then faded away. But he has continued with the job. Like the White
Yeah,
Stripes went on and then he went solo. So I'm just interested to see what the cross-generational audience, because that audience in the 2000s, they'd be in their 30s or 40s, and just seeing if they're, you know, he's picked up a whole new younger generation of audience to go to his shows.
yes. Another thing is he makes up the set list every night, so he doesn't have a set list.
I
And
love
he
that.
feeds off. So yeah, obviously he has. You know, he opens up with "Taking Me Back" and goes into "Fear in the Dawn" every night. But
Yeah,
he feeds off the energy of the crowd and makes up the set list as he goes along and jams.
yeah,
You know, and he ends up with his two most popular tunes with "Steady as She Goes," which is the Rancateurs, which is another band we
yep,
can go into. And
yep,
then he goes into Seven Nation Army as his last song. But in between, I
absolutely.
mean, he went deep on the White Stripe stuff. You
That's
know,
great. And
it
don't
wasn't.
you love
Yeah,
that? When, you know,
yeah,
there's nothing worse that a band does the same set every night. And a lot of them, they say that they do that because it's so controlled with the lighting show and the smoke bombs and this and that. They can't
right.
really improvise. But it
Yeah,
sounds like with Jack, he can
the
just
vocal enhancements.
he
Also,
can yeah, he can just turn it up, you know, swap it around and make it interesting.
right.
So
Yeah,
if you were a real Jack White fan and you wanted to see a couple of shows in a, you know, in different states of America and wanted to, you know, you'd have a different experience every night.
definitely, most definitely. Yeah, because he changes it up all the time.
That's
Yeah,
great. That's great.
yeah.
I like that.
You know, I'm glad we're talking about the album because it's just been a progression, and this has
Yep.
been a culmination of, you know, since his first solo album, and it's just not. It's just from first song to last song, it's just great.
And it's doing
But
really well, Joe. It's gone
yeah,
top five UK, top five America. I think it went at least top 10 in Australia. So he's still got that audience. And one of his songs was promoting Call of Duty, one of those video games. So he's in the in and now. So he's still definitely
yeah,
out
and then
there.
I just brought up hockey. So one of the networks that's covering using the playoffs, they're using "Fear of the" or "Taking Me Back" is their theme song. The
Yep,
other, so that's on TNT, but
yep,
ESPN's using so "Sticks" is their song. But
yeah,
no, it's pretty cool to hear it. It really is. But the dude, I
absolutely.
mean, the guy's a renaissance man. You know, you go into his other ventures. I have in back of me Third Man Records. And if you ever go to Nashville or Detroit, you got to visit it because it actually he has his own record printing plant
Yep,
within those confines, and he's
absolutely.
behind the vinyl movement, and
Yep.
he's made a plea to the big record companies to get that vinyl out there.
And it's such a beautifully put together album.
Yes.
You know, I could have got the CD, but I love getting the albums because they're just beautifully packaged and the artwork is just beautiful. This is like some of the artwork and it's got all the
Yeah.
lyric sheet. This is like a little insert that came out, just beautifully put together. And it just makes it
Exactly.
special when you buy a vinyl. And there's another one here too. Look at that.
Yeah, it's great. It's great stuff. And also, you know, my son played college and minor league baseball here in the United States. He makes
Yeah.
great baseball bats. He got into a venture called War Stick Bats.
Yep.
So in the concert, before the concert, I didn't know, I wasn't aware of this, but they played a pickup baseball game at University of Texas's stadium
Yep.
before the concert. And, you know, he was promoting his bats. and he makes great baseball bats. He has his own record company
Yep.
and store.
Yeah.
And he's all into all these other ventures. He can shred. His
Yep.
guitar effects are groundbreaking with all his pedals and everything
Absolutely.
else.
What was the merch at the concert? Was there vinyl, t-shirt, baseball caps? What was the merch
posters,
like?
Posters are big now.
Right.
Posters are huge. Yeah. So people are rushing to get the posters. And it happened. I saw McCartney. I told you I saw McCartney 2 weeks ago today. That would too. Tool is the big one where people just get the posters and then throw them on eBay the next day.
Yeah, but I'm just interested if he had his records at the merch stand. If
I
went
did.
to the okay. Yeah. Just really interested that you can go to a concert these days and you can pick up not only the baseball cap, but you can pick up a record. So tuck it under your arm.
His Third Man Records, he just doesn't print his own stuff. He prints stuff for other bands, and then there's a guy who bought the demos, not the demos. What am I thinking of? But he bought the rights to Peter Criss's work outside of Kiss.
Oh yeah.
And he went to Third Man and had him print it out.
Yep.
So Third Man made the reissues of Peter Criss's Out of Control and his other album that after he left Kiss. Yeah,
absolutely. But going on to this album inside too, just a few more tracks. Dusk is really good. That's the opener. Yes. And another thing about Jack White, he has really good opening tracks. It's like pow. And great riff. And I love the lyric, what's the trick to make love stick?
Yes,
he's really unloading in this album. So, and the album cover, it's like a tornado's gone through. So I'm just wondering if he's saying something about his personal life. Not sure.
Yeah.
That was Then, This Is Now. That's great. Morning, Noon, and Night. There's some great blues riffage. And I wrote down, it reminded me of Cream. It's got that sort of really late 60s, that power trio riffage. Really soulful.
He's not afraid to mention that, which is so cool. And I wonder, even like when we talk on the Contrarians, I would really like to see more of us that are into that 70s classic rock to get into him, because he fits into that mold.
He does.
Sure, he does the sampling and the other stuff, but he plays that crap. I mean, his Raconteurs output, he compares a lot of that to the Small Faces and Humble Pie. I mean, he brings these bands up, and it's just it fits in. It's contemporary music. It's now, but it fits in with that classic 70s rock that I love.
Absolutely. If you don't mind me asking, who supported Jack White?
They had a band called Chicago Batman, I believe it was.
Right.
The crowd was into them. I don't know.
Yeah. Were they in the same wheelhouse, or was it something completely different? Because I'm interested to see what sort of band he would bring on tour.
They could play. Let's put it that way. Yeah, and then they definitely could play. It was sort of in his wheelhouse.
Yeah,
I would say, yeah. But I wasn't too into what the crowd was. This happened the day after the shooting, in Texas. So
all right.
Jack White didn't mention it at all, but the opening band referenced it. So that was kind of that was pretty heavy when they did that. And they played a song dedicated to that. But
I understand. Yeah. And what was the capacity? What sort of venues playing in the States?
I saw them in Austin, Texas. That's where my oldest son lives.
Yeah.
And they built a new arena at the University of Texas called the Moody Center, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And they had the upper deck cordoned off. They actually had curtains over it. So I don't know what capacity is. I mean, that's what they're going to be using for their basketball games, but they're having a lot of big bands come in. I mean, Roger Waters is playing there. Smashing Pumpkins, James Addiction. They need a ton of bands.
10K or maybe less than 10K?
Maybe less than 10K.
Yeah, it's still healthy crowd size. Yeah.
The lower end was sold for sure. Yeah. And on this tour, he's playing anywhere from smaller venues on different nights, but he's playing, like, he played the big stadium in Seattle. He played a couple other big, like he played the Brooklyn Stadium when he hit New York. So he's hitting some bigger venues, some smaller venues, and some medium-sized venues on this tour.
Yeah,
But I think he's doing fairly well. Yeah.
absolutely.
So yeah. For the lower end, it was well sold, and the floor was all general admission.
Yep.
And
Yep.
they had a package. They had a package where you can pay extra and get in early, so those people were able to get up front.
Yeah.
Right up to the stage.
But with this album being so inventive and he's just throwing it out, I'm excited to hear what the next album, Entering Heaven Alive, is going to sort of sound like, because
I think it's going to be more of an acoustic direction.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But this album to me is like he's really exploring and pushing the boundaries, because as I said earlier, with the White Stripes, it was confined, but was exciting. It was still interesting. But with this album, and he is pushing the boundaries and tapping into sampling, dub, reggae, just trying different things, and just exploring his musical palette.
Agreed. Definitely.
So I'm really,
I, especially after seeing him live and realizing that he can shred. I think a lot of people have this vision of him just doing a lot of special effects and 3 chords with the White Stripes, but this dude can play. And I put him up there with an Eddie Van Halen in his own right. It's not Eddie Van Halen shredding, but he shreds more like a Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
But his own style, as I said, he made the comment, don't ever let anyone tell you how to play guitar, pick it up and learn it. And that's how the old guys did it. I just saw a recent interview with Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols. And he's like, I just picked up a guitar and taught myself,
Exactly.
Or you used to listen to the records and try to play. You didn't have tabulature and all that stuff. But some of his guitar effects blow me away. He does one thing on Steady As She Goes off the Raconteurs where it sounds like he's hitting a chord like super fast, and you see the video and he's got like 5 to 6 pickups on this guitar. You wonder how he's doing that stuff. But it's cool because you go into Third Man Records and you can play around with some of his pedals and put the headphones on and fool around with the guitar and get those sounds. It's really cool. He tells his pedals too.
Well, next time I'm in that neck of the woods, I definitely will check out Third Man Records.
Yeah, hopefully he's coming to tour by you. I know he's doing a European tour now, and then he's coming back to the States for some dates. But it'd be great. I really love to see. Australia is such a great market for rock and roll.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the last time we saw him was the Raconteurs. So I think, Jack, long overdue. Come down here, mate. No, we love him down here, and the White Stripes, we were on board. Now, I remember the White Stripes. They were like the big new thing, and it was a lot of word of mouth. And I remember they did a show in a little club called the Metro in Sydney, and it was the hottest ticket in town. And everyone in the know sort of, you've got to see this band, the White Stripes. And the whole concept was a bit of a mind blow, where you've got a guy on a guitar and a girl on drums, and it's just this sound. And you think, you and I, Joe, we're used to 4-piece or 5-piece, that big wall of sound, and trying to get your head around how could they carry this off. But it's compelling.
He carried, in my opinion, he carried 90% of the load. I mean, you'll see concerts back then, Meg's playing the drums, but he's running from keyboard to guitar to this guitar. And I think that's why he eventually went solo, because he needed to branch out and get that better musicianship and grow as a musician, which he obviously has. But that early White Stripes stuff is great, and it fits in with that Detroit rock heritage, which I absolutely love.
Yeah. With the class of 2000, bands like the Strokes, are they still big news in the States or not really?
You don't hear from time to time. But
I'm just thinking of any bands of the class of 2000. Are there, other than Jack White, are there any that are still going and making a ripple? Not really, are there?
No, I really can't think of any offhand.
I mean, bands like the Vines and the bands like
right on the you think of 2000 right on the dot, but then I'm always like, they started in the late 90s.
But
Yeah.
a lot of bands came and went, you know, like Jet, Vines, Hives. Yeah,
Right.
just yeah,
Yeah.
came and went. Like they had a huge album and then just didn't go on with the business. But
Exactly.
he has gone on with
The
it.
Jet was Australian, correct?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And they had some great stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
But tell us about the live experience. How many are in the band? Is it like 4-piece, 5-piece?
So he has this great drummer. No, now he's toured with two different bands, and he's had a female band that he toured with the last time. And
Yep.
you'll see that on when you look up his Lollapalooza performance, and it's just
Mm.
equally as good. But he's back with this band, so he has his drummer, keyboardist, and a bassist, and that's it. And then he runs around, he plays piano, he'll run and he'll pick up the bass. Yeah, just great stuff. But that's his band, and they kick ass, just kick
Yep.
ass. Yeah. And
Absol-
he played 26 songs when I saw him.
26. That's good
Yeah,
value. So about 2 hour
yeah,
show.
he played a bit of a Stevie Ray Vaughan song. I mean,
Right.
he can jam, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he went deep on the White Stripes. You know, he went back to like Dead Leaves the Dirty Ground, which I absolutely
Yeah.
love. You know, but you don't mind, you know, it because it's all good because he's jamming and it's great musicianship.
Yep.
It's just it was a great concert.
Yeah.
I go see him. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, you get disappointed. Like he's not even playing the song. The song "Corporation" off the last album is just a phenomenal. It's good funk based hard rock that I loved from the 70s. You know, so he's not playing that at all on this tour. Maybe he'll resurrect it one night, but yeah, but you get disappointed, but not that disappointed because it's great stuff. Really
before the show, we just had a little chat, and I said I was going to put up the question: is he the last rock star at the moment? What other rock stars are there that have that charisma? You know, the musicianship.
Right. Yeah. You know, I've had this conversation before, and we had a Contrarians episode on, you know, current artists. And I don't know if there's anyone really out there. You know, the one band that everyone talks about is Greta Van Fleet. And the musicianship is there. They're great live. I thought the first album was very good. I thought the second album was pretty good. I thought the third album not so good. The thing is, they're not rock stars. They're just, in my estimation, there's not that danger. There's not that passion.
Just to take the control, you know.
As you mentioned, Jack White's not afraid to show that passion and show, you know, he's not Motley Crue in the 80s, you know, being a complete asshole, but he's out there talking about life and talking about things and singing about it. It's just great stuff. Yeah. And in his own mind, yeah, he's a rock star. So maybe he is the only rock star out there right now.
Absolutely.
I really can't think of it, you know. Yeah, who else is there? You know, outside of, you know, you think of like, when I think of rock stars, even, you know, the rap artists, you think of Kanye, but Kanye is now over 10 years old, right?
Yeah.
You know, he's got that rock star image where he's controversial and you don't know what he's going to do. But yeah.
It's an interesting one, and I won't even pretend to go into the rap genre because I don't know much about it. But I'm sure that there are rock stars in that genre. But in our genre that you and I know, you think of the 70s and you think of the 80s, and I'm struggling. There's none that are flying the torch, and I think this guy is the one that is really flagging, waving the flag of rock, and he's a bit by himself at the moment because there's not. I'm really struggling to think of anyone in that, you know, maybe times have changed.
Dave Grohl was that guy, but now with the tragedy that happened in their band, who knows where they're going to go with that. But he was the poster boy for rock, and he would even joke about that.
Yeah, and even the drummer, the late Taylor, had rock star charisma, and he was the drummer, but he had charisma.
Yeah, but that's a 90s band. You know, they came out in the 90s, right? And so post 2000, it's really hard to say. You know, I go back to Greta Van Fleet. I remember Elton John saying, you know, they need to be rock stars. He goes, the musicianship's great. I like their music, but they don't have that, have some type of danger or shocking aspect to yourself.
Yep.
And I think bands are afraid to do that now.
Well,
They
maybe
really
the
are.
distribution is just not there, because the whole record industry has changed, and it is all through the YouTube. It's all through social media, and maybe there are some rock stars out there or bands out there, but they just can't get their product to the masses because they
Right.
don't have the backing of your Warners, your EMI, your Polygams. It's completely different. Um, I don't know. It's a bit sad because
And there's that age gap too. There's, you brought that. I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's very important too. Because young people are important to, have certain types of music grow, and we have our older people, and they get stuck in that. I just like these bands, and these new bands I won't listen to. But it's good to see young people get into rock. But we know young people that aren't going back into the current bands and just sticking with the, you know, we know them, from the panels we've been on, that there's young people, but they're listening to Dio, or they're listening to, or they'll even buy, like an Ohio Players album back from the 70s. And I'm like, why aren't you listening to Jack White? Or why don't you give this band a try? So there's bands out, like there's a band called Dirty Honey, right? And their stuff just rips, but there's no backing. I mean, that's your thing. And I know nothing about the band, I don't know. You have the Darkness, right? That's another, maybe that's post 2000.
No, they were there, but I
yeah,
think
they
the
had
problem
it there, but it was kind of,
they were a bit
almost
jokey. That was the
comical.
thing. There was a lot of
Yeah,
people didn't take them seriously because they thought
right.
they
It
were
was
jokey.
more
That's
comedy.
a whole
Yeah,
episode, and love to do that with you one time just to cover that
yeah,
album, Permission to Land. But yeah, look, I agree. And you look, there are so many of the younger generation, and I'm not trying to be an old man, just, I mean, music is just cross-generational, but there are so
yes,
many people in the vinyl community into vinyl, but a lot of the stuff they get is Fleetwood Mac Rumors or Dark
yeah.
Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, which is fine. You got to revisit the classics, but you got to keep it going, because there are some really decent rock out there, and
So my question to
and
you
buy it.
is, outside of Jack White, which we're agreeing on, what bands are what? Where is that next Led Zeppelin? Where is that next Fleetwood Mac? Where is that next Black Sabbath? You know, kids are liking those songs because they're great songs. Who's writing those songs anymore?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I can think of Dirty Honey, Greta Van
yeah,
Fleet. I'm sure some of your listeners will throw bands out there, but
absolutely. And
there's
I'd
no one.
encourage that. And
Yeah, but there's no one pushing that.
well, you
There,
know what I don't want to happen is I don't want rock to be like jazz. Now, what's jazz
right.
music? Love jazz. Jazz is a very sort of elite type of musical genre. Certain people like that specialized music, and and it's a very sort of not as popular as rock. I don't want rock to be a specialized genre. You know what I'm saying?
I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I don't want people to think of rock, oh, that's like jazz, you know?
I agree. Yeah. And something happened. Obviously, the whole industry changed, and there's the downloading, and you don't have the record companies backing bands, but you don't have the starving artist anymore. Even, you talk about the rap. I don't even know if the rap guys are that hardcore anymore like they were. You think about an NWA and the rap where, they came from the mean streets of Compton, outside of Los Angeles. I don't know if you have that anymore. I don't
Yeah.
know if you have that starving artist that's out there, that's being dangerous, making their albums. And if they are, I don't know if they're playing or making any noise or an original music. But
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you. It might, people have said the guitar might be a forgotten instrument, or the guitar might fall by the wayside like the saxophone, or you
Mm,
hope that doesn't happen.
yeah.
But
No, I
right now,
just don't
Jack
want,
White's
yeah.
carrying the torch.
Yeah, I just don't want rock to be like, as I said, to be like a marginal genre. And not
Agreed.
saying jazz. I love jazz. So jazz fans, don't write in, because jazz is one of my favorites, but it is a very sort of, it's not a wide stream type of genre. And rock was a very wide stream genre,
And
but
rock,
it's becoming much more elite, much
that
more
time
narrow.
frame of rock, I don't see ever going away. Like you're wearing a Joan Jett song t-shirt.
Yeah.
So when people, a lot of people don't realize this, but Sunday night football is huge here, you know, American football. And they have a theme song, and it's I hate myself for loving you, but they rewrote the lyrics. So that song is huge. Carrie Underwood sings it now, but Joan Jett's getting tons of royalties for that. So that music's always going to be there, and that music's always going to be loved and played at sporting events and everything. That being said, who are the new artists that are creating that magic?
And that's why it gets really sad for us when we see some of our idols pass away, and it becomes much more powerful to us. Like personally for me, like when David Bowie passed away, that was just crushing, because
Yes.
I feel like a part of my childhood, and I just felt like it was just part of my musical life had gone, and there's going to be no more Bowie. I felt the same way with Prince. There's certain
Neil
artists
Peart.
that you sort of just follow through, and and
Neil
you've got,
Peart, Eddie Van
yeah,
Halen.
oh, that really
Right? Yeah, I mean Eddie
absolutely.
Van Halen. So you had here. So maybe here you have Wolfgang. I'm glad you brought this up,
Mm,
because is he a new rock star? I don't know. He's not. He's extremely talented. Obviously,
yeah,
his new album's pretty good. Um, he just doesn't have that rock star vibe. And the one thing I don't like about him is he's attacked his fans on Twitter, and I don't get it.
mm,
He's angry, but not angry in the right way, you know. So maybe Wolfgang Van Halen has the potential to carry that torch. He definitely does, but I don't know if he has it within him to do it. That album's very good. I can listen to it
yeah.
all the time. You know, yeah, but
But
yeah, losing these
yeah,
rock
and
stars,
a lot of our heroes like Gillan, Coverdale, Paul
right?
Rogers, they're not going to last forever. And
Yeah, Coverdale finished singing.
vocally, they're coming to the end of their line. And you've got to remember,
Yeah,
these guys, these gents are in their late 60s, early 70s. Like Gillan's like in his 70s. That's just
yeah, I know.
like
Well, I just
Joe.
saw you.
Joe, when you were a teenager, could you imagine that some of these bands would go, would be still doing it in
Never.
their 70s?
No.
It
I
was
hope I
like a
die
running
before I
joke
get
about the
old.
Rolling
Right.
Bones, the
Right.
Rolling Stones, but there's so
We
many of
always
these guys doing it.
what the Who. I hope I die before I get old. And then, but now
Yeah,
the Who is just two guys going out there,
yeah,
touring. I never in a million years would I have thought
yeah.
that.
And it's
And
valid because, you know,
yeah,
John Lee Hooker and all those blues craftsmen, they were going into their 80s. Jazz musicians go into their later years, and it's all very valid.
right.
But yeah, it just feels sad because there's like you had that generation that we loved, we grew up with, and then what's the new generation? And all I can think of is this guy, Jack White. It's just
Yeah,
there you go.
there
Just
you
thought I'd
go. Yeah,
bring out this little beauty. But
definitely.
yeah, he's holding the fort, he's waving the flag, and we just need more Jack Whites to really
Yeah, and
raise the
he's waving the
flag.
flag for rock and roll, and he's waving the flag for the vinyl movement, because
Absolutely.
he has a plea out there saying, I can't do this alone. I need the big companies to make vinyl,
Yeah,
pump the vinyl out. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, this is a great little conversation because we were talking about Jack White, and then it talked into two men just talking about the state of the rock industry. I don't think we're going to ever solve it. It's not something that we
no.
can solve in a day. Have you got any final thoughts about Jack White, the tour, the album, anything you want to share?
The album's phenomenal. I think he's a musical genius on the level of, your Eddie Van Halen's in his own
Yeah,
right. He can play anything. He shreds. He's not a one-trick pony with his guitar pedals.
yeah,
Go see him live. It's fantastic. Buy the new album. Buy all the stuff.
yes,
He's a musical artist that has grown immensely, and I'm just a huge fan, and I'm so happy. You could have me on anytime. I could talk with you anytime. You have a great show, and
Oh, thank you.
thanks for
Thanks a
having
lot.
me on.
No,
Yeah,
no problem. Well, as I said, Jack White, it is a great
and
album.
he makes great baseball bats too. I swear,
Absolutely.
he played the national anthem. You know, he opening day. He's a huge Detroit Tiger fan. Obviously, he played the national anthem,
Yep.
and he did play-by-play for a couple innings. They had him in the booth, and he was doing announcing, which
Yeah.
was very cool. So yeah, he's a
Yeah.
renaissance man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's
Well,
up there with Bruce Dickinson and all those other guys that do lots of different things very well.
you got
You
to
know,
get your product out there and cross
yeah.
marketing. But look, do you guys do yourself a favor? Get the Jack White album. I highly recommend it. I'm really looking forward to his new album coming out in July. Check that out when it comes. Please like, subscribe, put your comments to Rock Daydream Nation, and I'm going to do another chat with Joe B very soon. So check it out. Cheers.